Before the video gets started, I wanted to let you guys know I've started uploading almost daily on a second channel, where I'm breaking down playoff games, recapping what happened, and soon I'm going to start uploading everything basketball that's not a big enough video idea to fit on this channel. So if you like my videos already, you'll enjoy those, so go subscribe to that channel with the first link in the description so we can get it going. I got a ton of ideas for it and I'm excited to really get it started. Now back to this video. Today we look at the best starting fives of all time based on the team that drafted these players. It doesn't matter if they were traded right after being drafted or what, we're just looking for the team that made the pick. We're picking the top player at every position, and it doesn't matter how well they played for that team, we're basing it on their entire career. Now we got so many great teams here to talk about that we needed a few extra spots for some honorable mentions. The first is the Timberwolves for their starting five that they drafted of Zach LaVine, Ray Allen, Kevin Love, Kevin Garnett, and Karl Anthony Towns. There's monster talent here at every position, and every single one of these guys put up at least 25 a game at least once in their careers. It'd be a high scoring team, but having no true point guard and 3 big men would probably hurt them too. The next honorable mention though goes to the Celtics for Chauncey Billups, John Havlicek, Paul Pierce, Larry Bird, and Kevin McHale. You might have been expecting Bill Russell as their center, but don't forget he was drafted by another team that'll come up in a second. Also, it was kind of surprising that with how good the Celtics are in the draft, they didn't have a better point guard. Chauncey's still good though, and so is the starting five. But okay, now on to the real list. I've tried my best to put these in order from worst to best. It's hard though with all-time teams that you have to guess how good they would have been, but I think I got it for the most part. Number 10 goes to the Hawks for Bob Cousy, Pete Maravich, Luka Doncic, Bob Pettit, and Bill Russell. You got a lot of playmaking, a monster amount of scoring in positions 1 through 4, but really not a lot of defense at all. Luckily though for this squad, Bill Russell's at center and would really be the anchor on that end to make up for everyone else. And I think it'd actually work out really well. Maravich, Luka, and Pettit have all averaged just about 30 points a game at one point in their careers, and Cousy would be the 4th or 5th option on offense. I mean, assuming that we're assuming his game would translate through the eras. It probably wouldn't, but you just gotta base it on how good these players were based on their time period. Number 9, the Utah Jazz with John Stockton, Del Curry, Gordon Hayward, Karl Malone, and Mark Eaton. So we're talking about arguably the greatest duo in NBA history, combined with an all-time great shooter, a solid all-around player, and a 7'4" defensive stopper. And that gives them the offense, defense, playmaking consistency, scoring down low, and a great blend of every aspect of the game that they could all perform at an elite level. And again, if you feel like I'm forgetting a player or they're missing, chances are they probably were drafted by another team and will be making an appearance shortly. But actually, Stockton and Malone did play alongside Del Curry and Mark Eaton during their careers. They played with Eaton for a while and he was good, and they played with Del Curry but only for his rookie season. Number 8, the Spurs with Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, George Gervin, Tim Duncan, and David Robinson. If you were expecting Kawhi Leonard here instead of George Gervin, don't forget Kawhi was drafted by the Pacers on draft night. This team definitely would miss his godlike perimeter defense, but at least it'd be made up for by Gervin's 33 point per game capability. And this team's got it all. Tony Parker's the playmaker, Manu's the 5th option but a great one, Gervin's the scorer, and Tim and David have elite offense and defense down low. There's not really any weaknesses here, and it just goes to show how good San Antonio really is at drafting players. I mean, honestly, it's been a while now since they've drafted an elite player, but I'm sure it's coming. They've been a team that's been in the middle of the road for a few years now, but now they'll probably go back down to being a lottery team, so their chances are higher again. But for a team with 5 future or current Hall of Famers, to only be number 8 should show you just how good the rest of these teams are about to be. Number 7, the Los Angeles Lakers with Magic Johnson, Jerry West, James Worthy, Elgin Baylor, and Marc Gasol. It was pretty surprising to remember that most of the Lakers' all-time great players weren't actually drafted by them. No Kobe, no Kareem, LeBron, Shaq, Wilt Chamberlain, Pau Gasol. They were all originally drafted by other teams. You gotta give it to LA though for being able to lure all these guys in over the years. But let's not let that distract you from the talent that this team does have though. The greatest point guard of all time along with Jerry West, who was a 30 point per game scorer in his prime, a phenomenal 3rd option in James Worthy, a top dominant 2-way player in Elgin Baylor, and a solid center in his prime for Marc Gasol. They make up a team that has excellent offense and defense, and with all these guys and their winning mentalities combined, it would definitely lead to some championships. Number 6, the Philadelphia 76ers with Allen Iverson, Andre Iguodala, Ben Simmons, Charles Barkley, and Joel Embiid. You got Philly's current day duo along with the elite scoring of AI, the elite defense of AI number 2, and the all-around game and leadership of Charles Barkley. I'd be a little concerned about their shooting though because Embiid's the only good 3-point shooter on this team. Both AIs weren't great, Simmons doesn't shoot, and Barkley was statistically the worst 3-point shooting superstar of all time. Either way though, it's good to see that Philly actually drafted this much talent, and if they played in this current era, all these guys have proven time and time again that even though some of them can't shoot, it's never stopped them from being able to win games. so I'd still have a lot of confidence in this team that they'd still find a way to win. Number 5, the Oklahoma City Thunder with Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Scottie Pippen, Kevin Durant, and Shawn Kemp. It's not possible to have one of these draft videos without at least mentioning the Oklahoma City Thunder. Usually their big three just always gets mentioned in these lists, but since we're just looking at players they drafted, we also get to include Scottie Pippen, and that really makes them elite, because you know Russ and KD are good defenders, Harden and Kemp are decent, but if you have Pippen to rely on to fully commit on that end of the floor and let the stars focus and do their thing, similar with how he did to Jordan and how maybe Kawhi Leonard did back for the Spurs when he played with their big three, then this team would be unstoppable. They'd also be playing kinda small without a true center, but not too much thanks to KD's height. Number 4, the Denver Nuggets with Jamal Murray, Donovan Mitchell, Carmelo Anthony, Nikola Jokic, and Rudy Gobert. Now first off, don't forget Denver did draft both Mitchell and Gobert and traded them to the Utah Jazz the same night. Hurts looking back, but still pays off for them in this video. Now there's a lot going on here, but first, it's weird to put two full-fledged centers on the same court and have one of them transition to power forward, but I think it really works in this situation. With how well Jokic stretches the floor and can really play anywhere, and with how Rudy mainly focuses on the other end anyways, it may be the perfect matchup. Then you combine that with the leadership of Donovan Mitchell, the elite scoring of Carmelo Anthony, and the wild card in Murray, and this team's set. This team's got so much going on though, it's hard to even imagine how or if this would all work out. I think it could though, and that's why I have them as high as number 4. But with that said, number 3 goes to the Chicago Bulls, with Derrick Rose, Michael Jordan, Ron Artest, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Artis Gilmore. And Michael Jordan and D Rose mainly carry this ranking. MJ's great as we know, Rose would be a second option and the guy to score on the off chance Jordan wasn't able to. Ron Artest would basically take Scottie Pippen's role here, and LaMarcus Aldridge and Artis Gilmore would do their own thing in the paint. Jordan never really got to play with a real good center throughout his career, but 7'2" Gilmore would be more than enough. He was mostly a star in the ABA, but while there he was dominant on both ends, and Aldridge would be able to stretch the floor. He was never one to shoot a ton of threes though, and neither did MJ, Derrick, or Gilmore, so floor spacing could turn out to be a problem with these guys. Number 2, the Golden State Warriors with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Vince Carter, Draymond Green, and Wilt Chamberlain. So you got one of the most dominant big threes to ever play here, with Vince Carter who could attack the basket and don't forget was a great 3-point shooter for most of his career. And he's no Kevin Durant like Golden State eventually had, but he's a good replacement, especially when you combine him here with Wilt Chamberlain. I mean, just imagine, just Steph Curry and Wilt Chamberlain together would be dominant enough and win multiple championships, but if you combine them with the rest of the Warriors' best players that they've drafted, it'd make them unstoppable, because also don't forget, on the Warriors was where Wilt played his best. So it gives 2 league MVPs, the top 2 shooters ever, a former defensive player of the year, and an all-time great. Then finally for number 1, it might be surprising, we have the Milwaukee Bucks with Stephon Marbury, Julius Erving, Giannis, Dirk, and Kareem. And Julius Erving was actually once drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks 12th overall, but chose to go play in the ABA instead of teaming up with Oscar Robertson and Kareem on the Bucks. But here he'd get to play with Kareem, and it's crazy that for a smaller market team that they've been able to draft an all-time great at 4 of the 5 starting positions. And at that rate, it's a little weird that Stephon Marbury is the best player they've ever drafted at point guard. But either way, I definitely had to put this team as number 1. There's 4 guys that have won MVP here, 3 NBA champions, and Marbury. But it's okay though, because they don't need 5 superstars anyways. There's only so much ball to go around, so 4 is enough. Now let's see if you guys can come up with the greatest starting 5 that a team has drafted that didn't make the video. If you made it this far and you can think of it, comment it down below. I already have what it is in my mind, but let's see if you can get it too. Drop a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you next time.